A Gratitude Journal. Thanks for Nothing, Part 1. Thanks, Mark, for the blank journal you sent with suggestion for use as a gratitude journal. And I look forward to your release from prison in 4 years. Gratitude for warm shelter, clean air and water, nutritious food, and the love of my life, of my wife, Lynn. Basic richness, as I see that tricky word rich, meaning. Gratitude for the circa 1900 pastor who had the insight that, quote, it is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Yes, true. However, it is easier to curse the darkness. Gratitude for the Stoic ideal of the unperturbed mind. Thanks that the core of gratitude is to feel the abundance of life. Thanks, Eckhart Tolle. Gratitude for the Rediscovering Van Morrison playlist on Amazon Music. Gratitude for the loosening of associations and humor and insights that marijuana brownies can bring. Gratitude for my new, more accepting attitude towards words, towards the world of words. Now that I see the vast majority of humor lies in words. Gratitude that Lynn and I are still juggling the hot potato of life that was tossed our way. Gratitude for smiling more in the great amusement park. The Gap, I call it. That is the world. Gratitude for the ritual of making and tasting tea, even if decaffeinated. Gratitude that Lynn likes the 4x6 weighted blanket that I gave her after trying it myself first. It interfered with my wanking. Gratitude for the initial marital honeymoon bliss of about 3 years. And the present that was after we got through about 9 months of the second phase of relationships that marriage counselors call the marital crucible, wherein egos soften and alloy or not. Gratitude for and admiration for Lynn, keeping her Renaissance ideal figure. Gratitude for total internal body scan as a relaxation tool. Gratitude for the miracle of cotton. It's as Einstein said, either everything is a miracle or nothing is. Gratitude for my dawdling more and even doubling down on dawdling. If it means I'm heading for dementia, I hope it was a happy dementia. Gratitude for deciding more often to be in a good mood. The most important decision one can make, per Voltaire. Gratitude for my new green electric lawnmower. Gratitude for Lynn's advice about being in a good mood. Fake it till you make it. Gratitude for no thought of the day. Gratitude for email availability for my friend Mark in prison. But Washington State Prison is far from a Swedish one. Gratitude for the yoga pose of the catatonic. Gratitude that I'm about ready for the stay home for the awestruck and bewildered. Gratitude for my quantum wife, who gives new meaning to the word superposition. Gratitude for Lynn laughing when she stated that she realizes that she always overgeneralizes. Gratitude that I'm getting better at not being in a hurry up to my grave mode of functioning when doing things. Gratitude for finding ways to relax my last bodily hotspot, places where tension accumulates, namely the root chakra or the sacroiliac, or as I sometimes call it, the sacred iliac, by using my whole body shaking device or a vibrator or rubbing back to back with Lynn. Gratitude, it's kind of fun to be a mortal fool. Thanks, Shakespeare. Gratitude that, quote, awareness keeps thinking at bay. Thanks, Eckhart Tolle. Gratitude for Lynn's chip dip. Gratitude that it's, quote, not possible to distinguish sufficiently advanced technology from magic. For example, radio. Thanks, Arthur C. Clarke. Gratitude for the coming ending of the patriarchy and associated warfare from circa 8000 BC to 2050 or so AD as I see it. Gratitude for having been voted as best sex offender group therapist by the minorities when I worked as such. Gratitude for the free chess app. Gratitude for orgasms on dark chocolate. Gratitude for YouBoob streaming on my big screen, despite all the clickbait. Gratitude for now deceased friend's Frank's comment when his heart doctor advised him that the priest was called for last rites. He said, I hope God has a sense of humor. Gratitude that thinking about infinity gives a top physicist a headache, per his report. Gratitude for the thought that anxiety is the last refuge of the ego, I think. Gratitude for the Buddhists advocating non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment. Gratitude that time is evidently an illusion, per Einstein and others, though it's harder to realize this as an illusion than the flat earth illusion or the terra firma illusion that the sun rotated around the earth. Gratitude for the Google X formula for happiness. Quote, happiness is greater than or equal to your perception of events in your life, minus your expectations of how life should be. And being wealthy above poverty level does not help with this. Gratitude for Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker in the movie Dark Knight. Gratitude for recognizing that reality is an acquired taste. Gratitude for music by Manish D. Moore, a virtuoso synthesizer virtuoso and mixmaster. Check it out. Gratitude for the means to give to several charities. Gratitude for LED boudoir candles. Gratitude for the idea that everyone who works should make an above average wage. However, that's mathematically impossible. Gratitude for verbal intercourse and the other kind. Gratitude for pronoia, the opposite of paranoia. The idea that things just work out for you. Gratitude that since we were surprised by being born, death may also be a surprise. Gratitude for seeing that, quote, the ego is a child, unquote. Thanks, Byron Katie. Gratitude that the number one phrase of successful relationships is, thank you, for Dr. John Gottman. Gratitude that, quote, there is no God but reality. To seek him elsewhere is the action of the fall, unquote. Charles Tart. This suits my increasing tendency for pantheism or panpsychism. Gratitude that God's pronoun will surely be we. Gratitude for Eckhart Tolle's correction of Descartes. From I think, therefore I am, to I am aware, I am conscious, therefore I am. Gratitude that I don't have to do anything except scratch my butt when it itches. Gratitude that reality transcends any theory. In other words, the map is not the territory, per Donald Hoffman. Gratitude that health trumps wealth. Gratitude for the definition of gentleman as a wolf with patience. And for another definition of gentleman, a person who can entertain himself, another person, and a new idea. End of part 1. Parts 2 to 6 to come. Thank you.